Hey everyone. So my name is Ben Weiss. I am a journalist at DL News. It's this newer crypto outlet from the founders of DeFi Llama. I used to write for Fortune magazine for a year. And I think to start off, before we get into the nitty gritty of wallets, I'll just have everyone kind of introduce themselves and say who they are. So maybe let's start with Taylor.
Yeah. So I'm Taylor. I was just here. You should recognize me. It was like 2 seconds ago. I'm at MetaMask.
Hey guys, I'm Jaemin. I'm the co-founder of Magic Labs, and we're the leading wallet as a service provider. And we power prominent brands like Mattel, Forbes, and on the Web3 side, trailblazers like Polymarket. And we work with Rion as well, and Immutable, and yeah.
Hi, I'm Jess Houlgrave. I'm the CEO at Rion. At Rion, we are the builders of the WalletConnect network, which is a network that connects over 600 different wallets with 6,000 different applications in Web3. And at Rion, we build products that make that easy for developers.
Cool. So, this panel is about wallet UX. And, when I was thinking of questions, I kind of thought it was a little bit funny because there is also this push towards making wallets go away, right, for users, where people don't have to interact with these clunky, systems that were built many years ago. So I kind of wanted to start off and just like ask, is this idea of UX and wallets kind of maybe passe in 2 or 3 years down the line? And maybe I'll start with Taylor because, she's at Consensus, which has perhaps the most famous wallet. And that is also this, built-in thing in your browser that can often be, for me as a user, sometimes clunky. So, yeah.
Yes. So not only am I a MetaMask, but I've been doing this a while. And so while I would love to say that, yeah, like 2, 3 years, we're going to like totally fix the horrible experience of wallets right now. After saying that on panels for the last like almost decade, like I can't say it in good faith anymore.
What can you say?
I think that I honestly, I ask myself sometimes, like, why does this experience persist? Right? Like, why does it persist? And I think that one answer is that we want to uphold the values of like people controlling their own money, which puts certain limitations, right? You have to do things in a harder way where it's actually like a decentralized permissionless network. You can't just like put it on a server somewhere. I think the other thing though is that the interoperability, like in order to make a new, Jess can comment on this, like both of you probably, right? In order to like start a new thing, right? A new way to connect, a new way to interact with dApps, you have to like integrate with all the dApps, or you have to find a way, right? And so there's a lot of struggles there. I would love to see the sort of like core UX improve. And I think these two are working on it.
Yeah, I mean, on the other end, right, you guys at Magic are kind of focused on making wallets disappear. So how does, I guess that is UX in a certain way, but do you think kind of your thesis will be all wallets will not exist like from a visual standpoint and like 2 years down the line?
So when we started this company like 7 years ago, that time we thought about interoperability as like the core problem, but also it's like the core solution of like Web3, and that's the value prop of Web3 compared to Web2. But obviously, like we've been pragmatic and working with developers, and developers started asking more on the white label type of functionality when it came to building a dApp. And to really fulfill that type of use case, we had to start building our wallet in a way that's fully white labelable, and we had to give a lot of flexibility to the developer so they can really design UX from their perspective. With that, though, the sacrifice we had to make was interoperability, because when it's fully white labelable, you have to consider security, and then obviously asset security, like transaction signing, stuff like that. And it's best to be enclosed within the dApp to start off with. And then once they are ready to fully embrace interoperability, that's when we haven't, it's still not solved yet. I think there are two ways to go about it. One is graduating to like wallets like MetaMask, and then another way is like we've been considering building like an ecosystem type of wallet experience. But at the same time, there's like two different types of users. Like if it's a user that has graduated to expert level, they they're able to use MetaMask and these other third-party wallets, but if they like using the app itself and don't feel the need to interoperate, then they stay within the app. Like example would be like Polymarket or Helium. Like Helium's a mobile app, and they're happy just using the Helium itself, and they don't really know about the Web3 part. They just know that it's a Helium app that gives you like a phone plan access.
I guess kind of that makes me feel like then you could imagine a world where everyone's very siloed, right? There's not interoperability between wallets, but then that makes me think of Jess, whose product is at least like to connect different wallets. So I guess like, you know, what will again, looking towards the future, will it be siloed or will it be connected, or what do you kind of see happening, to your sunlight?
So I think when I look at the future, like what are we all trying to solve for? I think we're trying to solve for a world where blockchain technology is going to underpin a lot of the internet. But if we do that successfully, by necessity, most end users will not know that they're using crypto, and they certainly won't know which chain they're on crypto in, and they certainly won't know what gas is on the native. Like there are just all of these things that we need to abstract away from the end user. So if that's what we're trying to do, then I think that what the wallet evolves into is a place that people are storing assets and data in many different ways, right? I'm going to want a different wallet to store my retirement savings in versus the wallet that I use to play a game with versus the wallet that I use to go and buy coffee with. I'm going to want all of these different things. And I'm not going to think about them as in like, oh, I need 4 different types of wallets. I'm just going to be using these things in my day-to-day life in the same way that I use my banking application or I use my Google OAuth to log in to different places. And so I think that like this is the way that the world is going to evolve. And I think that that's why I'm excited for what we do at WalletConnect, because we link a lot of these like pieces together. So what we try to do is give consumers choice. Like you can pick whichever wallet you want, whichever wallet meets the best needs for you. And as a developer, we can, or as tooling for an app developer, we can say to you, you don't have to be experts in the wallet space either. Like in Web3, we have this like unbelievable like vertical consolidation in the way that like the Web2 space doesn't have. In Web2, like we use tooling from different places, from the people who are best at building it. And like the future of Web3 is going to be that, so that an app developer shouldn't really need to care about that either.
I guess, I mean, like one theme that I think Jay was talking about, it's where if you have interoperability, that could lead to security issues, right? And so I think interoperability, I think between wallets, right, is like an ideal of decentralization. So I want to kind of go over to Taylor from Consensus, where I guess like there is intention, right, between security and protecting users from scams, et cetera. And then also kind of living up to this idea of decentralization where people are allowed to move their assets freely across different, chains, wallets, what have you. I don't know. I mean, like, how does that play out in kind of the war room or the back rooms for wallet developers? And how do you balance those two different, competing ideals?
Yeah. So the approach that we take is that it's like there is a hard line in the sand where we cannot, as the creator of a tool that end users are using to interact with the blockchain, to move their money, to play the game, whatever it is, as the developers of that tool, we will never say you can't move your money, you can't do this, right? We also put a huge onus on making it exportable so that if people are unhappy with us, like they're able to take their seed phrase and walk away with it. And we think that both those things are really, really important for sort of like the core values of the blockchain ecosystem and stuff, but more importantly, because it helps balance the power between the end user, the retail end user, and us, the developers of this product, right? Because if we lock them in, or if we start making choices on their behalf, it's not just like a security thing. It's like, yeah, the power dynamics get really screwy, right? And it's really, really bad. The other thing is that we can't just we must let people do whatever they want with their money. However, people don't actually want to like get scammed, for example. They don't actually want to be hacked. And so the way
Well, I feel like, crypto is like degen enough where you might
sometimes they do want to get
there's like kind of
scammed.
like Schadenfreude where you're like, oh, I want to get hacked. Or that's the
In this industry, sometimes there's a gray area over in gambly Ponzi land. But the way that we think about this is like, um, we cannot act on behalf of the user, right? We cannot make decisions for them because we are not them. We don't know their goals, their motivations, their desires. However, as the developers of this product, we want to give them the information so that they can then combine them with their own desires and needs and whatever to make an informed decision. And so that's how we think about it is like, we need to give people all the insight so that they can make the right decision so that they don't have unintended or unexpected outcomes, right? Because that's sort of like what it comes down to is they don't want to get scammed, but it's not like our place to restrict them and prevent them from doing anything in order to like prevent maybe a scam, right? We don't have insight into that. We need to give them the insight because it's their money, it's their everything.
You're like the nice parent who doesn't like tell the kid they can't go out like at night, but like you need to kind of remember the consequences. I guess like for Jay, you were bringing up this idea of security when you were talking about white label products. And your customers aren't the end users, like, they're companies, right? So how do you guys think about security, especially when you're not like thinking about what will Joe Schmo do, when they're using my wallet? Like you're more building for like this bigger company.
Yeah, for us, the way the developers integrate our wallet SDK, it really varies. I can start with the one example that's literally fully abstracted away. So we've been working with Mattel on Hot Wheels and Barbie NFTs, and their requirement was they wanted to add the wallet behind the scenes on their existing Shopify e-commerce site. And they already had their own auth, and they already had their own security that they enforced behind that. And then they wanted to integrate wallet and tie to the auth system they already had. And then they also were in charge of creating their own UX, like their own widget or their own interface to, make it easy for the users to buy Hot Wheels and Barbie NFTs. So for us, it was really about just ensuring that when it comes to calling the wallet SDK, like signing and then, pretty much managing assets, that's what we really need to focus on. And also it was enclosed within their dApp. So it was more about users being fished from the authentication layer than like the wallet layer. And Mattel was quite strict about revealing more of the Web3 concepts to them. So that's one use case. And the other one is, I would say Polymarket's a big one. They've been trending a lot this year, and they've been using us for the last 4 years. And they have Google login and Google login and email login that they enforce. And then what they did was they used us from an EOA perspective, and then they added smart contract wallet on top. So the assets actually are stored in smart contract wallet, and our EOA is more used as like a remote control to give instructions to the wallet. So
when you're working with companies, do you have like a base level of security, like apparatuses that are applied, like if you just used your out of the box like SDK, or like do you also add in like, okay, kind of what Taylor was saying, where perhaps there's like a notice that comes up for users when they're about to click on like a sketchy like smart contract or something like that?
Yeah. Now there are many layers in the wallet stack. I would say one is on the authentication, like email, SMS, social login, and passkeys. And then there's key management system. I think this is the most important foundation. And then there's like smart contract wallet that's more on chain. For us, SDK is more around just making it really easy for developers to integrate. On the security side, our focus has been more on the key management system. And this is where both UX and compliance come in. Obviously, it'd be convenient for us to store the keys in the back end and then make calls directly to that. That would make UX very easy. But going with the compliance, and also we try to go as much as we can on meeting the ideals of decentralization. But I think we got to be honest here that when it comes to key management system, there's no real system that I think is truly like decentralized and like truly secure from like the Web3 ideal perspective, right? But this is where the Web2 type of compliance and also the legal way of securing keys comes in. So we follow three things: technical best practices, legal best practices, and then compliance best practices.
So just to like kind of get into what that actually means? Like
Yeah.
there are laws basically that say like you can only like this is how you store users' assets or users' passwords to like valuable stuff, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much encryption of keys and where it's accessed. For example, for us, the keys are accessed on the client side. It's not happening in our system, right? So the both decryption and encryption all happen on the client side. User can manage and then sign the transactions using their own keys on their own device. So that's how we have set up our system in a way that it's pretty much legally compliant.
I think to kind of like jump off that, I mean, you're bringing up this idea of compliance, and there's obviously the big like regulatory elephant throughout this entire conference and throughout crypto in general. And when thinking about wallet UX, like I was having the thought, like how much does regulation and regulatory compliance come into actually like optimizing or like actually influence UX and like what users see finally down the funnel. And I know Jess and I were talking about this before, but you have some potential thoughts about kind of like what the downstream action of regulators acting, either in crypto or more generally in tech have for like base level users.
I mean, I think that regulators have always been interested in what's going on in crypto. For quite a long time, though,
Sure.
they ignored the kind of the topic of a wallet being self-custodial or custodial was sort of like ignored for a while. It was just like all we really had was these self-custodial wallets. Then we started to develop new technologies, like the technologies that Jaemin builds and things where there's a question like, how custodial is this? Like, how much control does a user have over their wallet? Is it entirely self-custodial? And ultimately, the answer to that is like, there is a bit of a spectrum. And I think that a regulator, and bearing in mind that like regulation can be good regulation and it also can be bad regulation. So I think we've got to bear in mind that like not all regulation is just there to kill things. But like, so naturally, as this space grows, regulators are going to have more interest in this because they have a perceived duty of care to look after consumers. Where that impacts crypto, like from a user experience perspective, I think is firstly like what you can do with your assets. And if you're in a custodial environment, which is going to be a regulated environment, then there are going to be restrictions about the kinds of things that you can do with your assets. And increasingly now, I think that the view is like, where does this line, where does the self-custodial wallet world meet the regulated asset world? And as we have things like regulated stable coins, as we've got real world assets coming online, these two worlds are meeting more than they've ever met before. So at WalletConnect, we found this like interesting product market fit recently where with MiCA regulation coming in, you can no longer just go onto an exchange and like self-select that like, yes, I own this wallet. I can't just copy and paste my wallet address and say, yes, I own this if it's a self-custodial wallet. And so how do you prove that? You need to sign a message on chain to show that like you're going to own that wallet going forwards. And so like we've seen a surprising number of people start to use us for this like very niche regulatory case. In this instance, I actually think it's a better user experience because it's much nicer to connect my wallet than to like copy and paste the wallet address and have to like check the digits. So this is an example where actually maybe the user experience is going to be better as a result. So I think there's all of these touch points, but I think most of the impact is going to be at this intersection of where the self-custodial wallet world meets the like traditional finance and kind of regulated world.
And I guess to kind of, one question to follow up that, and then we'll move off of regulation because I feel like that's just what everyone talks about all the time in crypto these days. But I guess there's probably going to be something on the back end then that you have to implement to like maybe flag if it's a regulated asset or something like that for wallets, or is that something you're thinking about at all?
I mean, at WalletConnect, we don't touch the assets. Like we don't do anything on chain. We basically are a layer that allows messages to be passed between apps and wallets. I do think that we're going to start to see many more like creative solutions, right? Like pools where there are whitelisted wallets. So like I can only interact with this specific pool. And that's because I know that every wallet who's interacting in that pool has also been whitelisted or been through a KYC process. There's going to be instances where like as a wallet, you have some form of verifiable credential, and this is what allows you to participate and access apps. And apps may say, I only want to accept users because they can demonstrate that they've passed KYC. Obviously, the use cases for this are like, you're going to buy something online with crypto that's age restricted. You want to access content that's age restricted. Like, there are some really good examples of where like is going to be more restriction. And that's for me, that's like relatively little to do with like crypto regulation. Like this is just the application of laws that like, if you're under 18, you shouldn't access adult content. And suddenly we've got a new technology. And now how do we allow that to kind of marry together?
Cool. Okay. That's enough regulation for this panel, but probably stay tuned for the next panel.
Find us after
or like
regulation.
panel over there or any other. Kind of jumping, I mean, it's not the best connecting tissue, but like WalletConnect obviously, helps many different wallets habitate or, interact with each other. I wanted to ask, like, we've seen such a proliferation since MetaMask came onto the scene. I'm curious, like, is there such a thing as wallet wars? Like, is that a thing in crypto? Or like, and will we see consolidation? Because we've seen such a multiplication both across chains and on like specific chains themselves.
Yeah, me and Jess are they're gonna break out the boxing ring, and then
Yeah.
we're just gonna
That's actually the next panel.
no. So it's quite interesting. So I think that wallets are such a distinct sort of like weird thing that's so sort of different than like the centralized exchange world, and then also from like dApp world, that historically all the wallets have been like really friendly and like learned from each other. We're facing like really interesting weird problems. Over time, I think that maybe we've like worked together a bit less. Like we're not like hanging out 24/7 and like directly working together, but there's still like a lot of cases where the wallets like will collaborate, or like especially WalletConnect and these interconnective tissues, like because it benefits everyone, right? And the reason for that is that the sort of like the bigger problems and the user experiences and all of these things, those are more important to overcome than like us beating another wallet. And I think that over time, that'll start to probably shift, right? And I think that's probably a good and natural thing. You want a number of different products and services to be competing with each other to provide diverse and good experiences for like different user demographics, and you need that competition. But so far it's been the benefit has really come from like a more collaborative, working on this like the standards, learning from like security, like deep security, like vulnerabilities or exploits, and then also just like sharing intel on what are users dealing with, what are dApps, what are developers, what are the problems, how do we fix them, who's done this research, right? There's so much that has to be done, and luckily we can like still build off each other's knowledge and work together to improve, get up to a certain level, and then I guess once we get there, then the wallet wars will actually start happening.
So kind of the TLDR on that is everyone's nice in wallets.
Yeah, I mean, we disagree though. We're like, especially over, I think, the standards and stuff. Yeah, because we all have our opinions.
Yeah.
So there's times where the discussions and the debates, like we all want the best for the interoperable ecosystem. We all want certain things. And so like that's sort of where the disagreements come from though, which is interesting. It's not like my wallet's better than yours. It's like we're actually collaborating over a shared standard that will improve everyone's lives, and we disagree at the very last like details about like what the best standard is. But even that disagreement is actually done out of collaboration, which welcome to crypto. I love it.
I guess for Jay, I'm curious actually, what are those like potential disagreements, and where have you seen that been solved from like among like multiple developers or multiple companies where they've kind of collaborated on like one I don't know. You have to tell me.
Like in terms of how developers collaborate on standards?
Well, yeah, I mean, because Taylor is saying that there's like, it's more of a collaborative thing where maybe there's a disagreement, but then eventually they kind of like coalesce around like one specific thing. And since you've been, Magic has been around, you were telling me for 7 years, like obviously you've seen kind of the full evolution from beginning to end.
Yeah, I think so. When it comes to complexity on the UX part, there's upstream and downstream. To me, upstream is when you really talk about the front end UX. And for embedded wallets, I think the standard it's already quite defined because to me, and I'm sure the other like embedded wallets think in a similar way. Like Web3 for onboarding should be indistinguishable from Web2. This is for onboarding. I think after they graduate, like they can be introduced to more Web3 concepts, but in terms of upstream complexity, it's more on the UX side, and I think we're pretty close to that. For us, the focus has been on top of wallet abstraction, it's been more chain abstraction. And to me, that's downstream complexity. So we support like 50, 100 blockchains today. It's not just siloed apps, it's siloed chains and siloed assets. And our developers have been asking what's the best way for them to not have to think about liquidity and identity fragmentation. So for us, that's our next mission. And yeah, we've been working on it for some time. We have a solution that's coming up pretty soon in Q4. So I like to talk about it. I think once that's solved, then I think we get to better UX on both ends.
Gotcha. With our 1 minute left, lightning round. What's either a DApp or an app that you guys aspire to and think has great UX? I'll start with Jess.
One app that I've been using a lot recently is an app called Sling, which is like a global Venmo. It's a new app built on Solana. I really love it. It allows like end users to just like send funds super easily to anyone and anywhere in the world. As like a payments geek. Yeah, very excited.
What about you, Jay?
For me, it's Polymarket. Not because they're a customer, but I actually think Polymarket's like a real mainstream app that has actually that can be recognized not within just Web3, but in the Web2 world. So I would say that.
And Taylor.
Oh,
What?
God.
MetaMask.
Dude, so honestly, the last few months I have been in. So I sort of like drifted away from actually using things. It happens when you've been in crypto for a while, right? And so over the last 6 months or so, I've been channeling my inner degen in a hardcore way. I'm not going to name any of the things I've been doing, but I will say that there is the long tail of stuff out there is absolutely amazing. The UX is like night and day between, 1 and 2. And I think that it's like, I've been really impressed, not necessarily by like the UX or the security or the premise of these things, but just how diverse and creative people are. And like, I don't know, that's like, to me, I'm very bullish because there's so much being created in this long tail, and like the best are gonna, start to come up, and that's where like the innovation and the real sort of like levels up start happening. So yeah, break out your inner degen, guys. It's happening. It's coming back.
Bullish. That's the end. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. And yeah, enjoy the next panel.
Thank you.
Thanks.